we all got super excited about sharing this family tradition that had meant so much to us and was so magical. Like we knew kids would love it, but we really had no idea, especially mom and I, before Krista joined the business, had any idea about business.
Welcome to the Let Me Save You 25 Years podcast. I am your host, Shawn David Nelson, the founder of Lovesac. Oh, this is cool. First time having two on the pod at once. Twins, no less. We're going to break down the Shawnism. You can't know what you don't know. And to do this, I used to watch, business news. I'm a business guy. I used to, turn on the CNBC sometimes while I ate lunch and listen to these, CEOs talk about their companies using all kinds of jargon. And, some of the words they're using, I'm not sure if I even know what they mean. And how can they possibly just speak so fluently off the cuff? Let me read you from Lovesac's last earnings report, just my quote, just as an example, okay? Because I get to now be the CEO of a public company. I'm 7 years in. I've been a public company CEO now for almost 30 quarters. We are pleased to have delivered another quarter of market share gains underpinned by our secular growth initiatives across Design for Life product platforms and efficient customer acquisition engines. Our operational discipline continues to drive operating expense leverage, even as we maintain an investment stance for innovation and long-term growth. Our financial and operational performance, despite ongoing category headwinds, further bolsters our confidence as we move forward and transition from a product-focused company to a true brand. And I could go on and on. I could talk about how our net sales, increased by 10% in showrooms, down 4% in internet, and how our gross profit, fell by a few bips. And, what does this even mean? My point is, you can't know what you don't know. And I couldn't have known what half that stuff meant really and been able to do most of it by memory once I get to the 17th interview with a Wall Street analyst or a Wall Street reporter following our earnings reports that I've done now for, roughly 30 quarters in a row. I couldn't have known how to do that. I couldn't have known even the words unless I had made a big beanbag that people liked and then made another one for my neighbor and then, started a little factory to make more for my friends and learned what workers' comp insurance is the hard way when one of my friends cut their finger, like I talk about in the book, and I get a letter from the state of Utah telling me I'm in trouble because I don't have workers' comp. Well, I don't even know what workers' comp. You can't know what you don't know, but you're never going to get to learn it if you don't throw yourself into the ring. And now, here I am on the other side of being a public company CEO, which is kind of like the epitome of, bigness in business. Of course, we're a tiny public company compared to the big ones, but nonetheless, and I get to go on these shows on CNBC or take your pick, different networks, Yahoo Finance, whatever, and speak that way about my business. And I actually know what I'm talking about. But when you see it, what you don't know is that I've already said roughly the same things and rehearsed it for a week pre-earnings and written it out, studied it. And by the way, lived it managing the business. So those terms aren't just terms. They're not just words. They're not just numbers. They're the actual fodder of my day-to-day, operational capacity. And it flows out of me fairly fluently. And I kind of look and sound like one of those guys because I finally do know more than I could have when I began. And that's what today's podcast is about. And it's so cool because I get to break this down with the unlikeliest in some ways of entrepreneurs, the founders of Elf on a Shelf, this little guy sitting on my shoulder behind me who has been a fixture in our home for more than a decade. All of my kids have grown up with it. So cool to meet, the women behind this like international brand that have generated tens of millions of dollars annually, just following their instinct to share their family tradition with first another family and then 20 others and now the whole world. We're going to break down with Chanda and Christa Pitts. We're going to break down the idea is that, you need to surround yourself with people who will get on your boat, and the ones that have your best interests at heart, and how to decipher, when to listen to the experts, when to ignore the experts, and in fact, just follow your own instincts. We'll talk about the value of knowing the value of your idea, product, service, whatever. How to navigate and make good choices in a noisy world that we all live in. How business, life, whatever, there is value in working towards leaving a legacy, something that can outlast you. And, what are the best first steps on any venture? I say, just do something. And they say, write it down. Not a bad idea. Let's start there. Just write it down. Let it go from words to words on a paper. And then, of course, just do something. Shawnism number 1. So we get to break down this amazing Shawnism with two amazing guests today. You're going to love this. I hope you have an elf on the shelf in your life because you're about to meet their maker. Today's guests are proof that sometimes the best business plan is no plan at all. Just a whole lot of grit, guts, and Christmas magic. They are the brilliant sister duo behind, drumroll, the Elf on the Shelf, a quirky family tradition that publishers once turned down flat, but these ladies went ahead and self-published it into a global holiday phenomenon that not even my family could remotely escape from. Together, they co-founded the Lumistella Company, where they've transformed a simple story about a scout elf into a worldwide brand with books, movies, merchandise that sparks joy every December and strikes just a little bit of fear into my children's heart and into our heart when we, forget to acknowledge the elf properly. These two know what it means to leap without a safety net, because they'll tell you, you just can't know what you don't know. So some lessons you can only learn by throwing yourself into it and figuring it out as you go. Please welcome to the pod, Ms. Christa Pitts and Chanda Bell.
Nice to be here.
Hey.
Hi, Shawn.
Thanks for having us.
Heck yeah. This is exciting. I do feel a little nervous with this guy sitting on my shoulder like this. I feel like maybe I should live life.
Make the nice list. Make the nice list, sir. Right.
All right. So without thinking too hard, whoever feels like taking this, when you first heard the Shawnism, you can't know what you don't know. What's the first thing that came to mind?
Well, I think what was cool about that is when we found out there was like a theme, and they actually, like, you guys sent some to like choose from. And I literally was like, it was just like beamed in on that one line, because I feel like that has been our entire 20-year story, is that you really can't know what you don't know. And it's everything from how we originally started and we had no idea what we were doing to starting our own production company, or like, it is our entire 20-year story, I would say. So Kristen may have something additional to add, but like when I first saw that, I was like, I literally can't think of a better theme. I think it's like the theme of our life. At least it has been the last 20 years.
And the theme of like a million entrepreneurs' lives, right? Like Chanda often says, ignorance is bliss. I couldn't agree more. It ties in beautifully with that theme. It really is, take your step now and worry about it later.
Yeah, I love it. And that's the spirit of these Shawnisms, is really, we all learn the same lessons. We can put pithy phrases behind them and claim them. I'll claim them as Shawnisms, but that's the cool thing about the crucible that is entrepreneurship, is that, and I know that very confidently as I fire these out to people like yourselves, is we all learn these same things in our own ways. And one of the things I want to call out right away for anyone paying attention, I got to believe that most people listening probably know the Elf on the Shelf. I feel like it's ubiquitous. I don't know a family that doesn't have the elf, perpetrating their living room and chandeliers and all the weird places our elf ends up. But the aspect of it that I'm so excited to have you on the pod, because one of the aspects that I've observed and wondered about, and also it's made me think, is your properties, I'll call them that, your intellectual property, your IP, your elf, the story, the book itself, how it looks, how it reads, how it comes off, has its own feel to it. It doesn't feel like Dr. Seuss. It doesn't feel like Disney. It doesn't feel like, Hasbro or something. It's got its own look, feel, smell, shape, colors, to it. And to me, that is the essence of a brand. And I think it has to do with the fact that you didn't know what you didn't know. You didn't follow a formula. And by the way, I don't even know your whole story, but I can just smell this coming through. And I have discovered that there is great advantage to kind of being dumb. I put it that way. You may not be dumb. I kind of enjoy staying naive and being a little bit dumb to the industry, because it allows you to do things differently. And the end result is something that looks, feels, smells differently than the others. And that's called a brand.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's anything cookie cutter about who we are and what we do, not from our company vision, which is to tell the stories of Santa's North Pole, to how we do it. I think most people would think it's insane to build an entire business that's seasonal on this whole idea of telling the stories of Santa's North Pole. That started with an elf from our childhood. And so part of what people are getting is I think the authenticness of what we offer and the genuineness of who we are, because to your point, there was no business plan. There was no we think we're going to start this business and it's going to look like this. It really was just sharing our family tradition. And when we couldn't get anybody to publish it, we had to publish it ourselves. And that meant starting a company. And it was literally like local watercolor artist. Hey, do you mind joining us on this venture? By the way, we can't pay you, but do you believe we're going to get it there? So yeah, I think it's all of those things that makes the journey unique.
I would also say, to your point about the brand, right? The authenticity of it. I actually think it's a bit of our secret sauce, if you will, because you don't have to be the wealthiest family or the most athletic family or the most musically inclined family to enjoy the simplicity of the elf on the shelf. And if I had, or Shanda had, $1 for every so-called expert in the toy or gift industry, or in the realm of publishing, that had an opinion on this and told us it wasn't new enough, or it wasn't updated enough, or why didn't it have electronic components, we would have been rich just off that. Everybody's got an idea. Yeah. Great. Thanks so much. And so I do think part of that secret sauce is that authenticity of brand. You really do, what you see is what you get. And when we started, there was no such thing as the elf on the shelf. There was literally nothing like it. So just like Sarah Blakely with Spanx, when there was this idea of a completely new imagination for shapewear, right? We came on the scene with a completely new idea for Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, a friend of ours and a dear mentor said to Chanda and I a couple of years ago, he was like, you guys fixed Christmas, and who even knew it was broken to begin with? So I do think that's a little bit of our special brand magic.
It says so many things, right? There is always room for innovation, even in, I don't know, eons old traditions, things that maybe feel like they shouldn't be meddled with. You're creating new characters. In fairness, Rudolph came along sometime later than the other reindeer, and you built on that. And that's a very bold thing to do. It's also a very inspiring thing to do for anyone listening, because it just shows you there's always room. There's always room for new innovation. And I was so excited when I unwrapped the elf that you sent me, because we already have our own elf. And, he appears at the end of at the beginning of each December on cue and does his thing. But when I received a new one, it's the same little body. I was worried that I'd see, little plastic weird hands, and let's save some money by manufacturing it this different way. And actually, I love that the manufacturing and the materials are so simple and plain, still useful, still elegant, still good. And that just shows a great discipline in, keeping what works. And, it's tricky because one of the Shawnisms also in the book is mind the experts. And something you said reminded me of that, right? And what I mean by that is there are places for experts. I'm sure as you started your production company, there are some people that probably gave you great advice along the way.
Sure.
On the other hand, you really have to mind the experts like you mind the gap getting onto a train. Like those experts will tell you all kinds of things that will make you feel insecure and wrong.
Yeah.
And the big bucks are found when you're able to discern, what things to listen to and what things to just stick to your guns on.
Yeah, the noise, if you're unsure of yourself, can be deafening. I have been fortunate enough in my lifetime to work with a lot of incredible entrepreneurs and to learn from them. And many of them will tell you what they did right and what they did wrong. And I think in many cases, it's gleaning from those learnings, those real learnings, like the one that you share in your book, right? Those Shawnisms, as you call them. But there's a lot to be gleaned from your peers who have either gone before you or are up next to you, as well as subject matter experts. Because there are a lot of subject matter experts that we've probably all talked to have driven their companies into the ground, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to be very true to yourself and focused in what it is that you're trying to do and what you believe in. What does make your idea different? What does make your product different? What is it that you are trying from the very start to change about what's already out there? And I think that helps cut through the noise a little bit, but it is something to take note of. And then to your point, I mean, we've had amazing mentors. We've had people who've come alongside us and believed in us along the way. And as many entrepreneurs who've built successful companies, plenty of people will tell you it'll never work. Plenty of people will tell you it's a dumb idea. It's really that grit and that ability to say, you know what, you may find it to be silly, but I'm going to go forward with it. My sister's going to go forward with it, when we're going to change Christmas.
I think an interesting thing just in hearing you talk about that, what jumped into my mind of mind the experts was thinking about in our experience, like, because the experts told us our book was destined for the damaged goods bin. Experts told us there was no market for this and you don't know what you're doing, and had literally people pat us on the head and say, you've done a good job getting it this far. But I think what struck me about that was it is important to have wise counsel. And I think the way that you find the people that are wise is it's the people who get on your boat, right? They are like cheering for you and they're excited and they get on your boat. And then I think in addition to that, like analyzing their motivation is super key in the discernment piece. What is in it for them and where does that come from? But I think when people join your boat and they have your best interest at heart and they really do care about you, I think it makes it a little easier to discern when that wise counsel comes into play and when they're just another, piece of gum on your shoe. Because everybody has some piece of advice for you. And if we had listened to that advice, and I remember a very specific struggle early on when we were first deciding publish, not publish. And somebody had mentioned to us this idea of self-publishing. And I'm like, what's that? Then I had to learn that and had no idea what they were talking about. But during that we had an agent. They took it to all the publishing houses and they started coming back to us with all of these things. And one of the things they said to us was they wanted us to rewrite it as a narrative story and not as like a rhyming book. And I remember very vividly telling the agent, who again, I'm 30 years old with no experience, former school teacher, like I have no business doing any of this, developing product, any of the things that I know now. But I remember remember driving in the car, and I remember talking to them when I got home and just having this thought and this gut instinct that was like, if they can't accept this story the way that God gave it to us and the way we wrote it down, then I'd rather not do anything with it at all. Like it's either this or nothing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we had to, draw that line. Yes, they were the experts. But I can't imagine now not being the story that we currently share with the world.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it's such a great example of a founder's intuition, which I talk about a lot. It's like the older I get, I kind of always expected to grow out of it because I'd get wiser and smarter and more knowledgeable. And like the older I get, the more I lean into my intuition because I've just been bitten so many times by where like I knew we shouldn't have done that, or I knew we should have done this, and I kept my mouth shut, or I didn't speak up. And so now it's like, look, explanation untold, I am going to listen to my instincts. It doesn't mean that I dig in on everyone, because if I did, all I would be doing is digging in all day.
Right.
So sometimes you have to give things a little bit of space and air to really discern your strongest instincts from just every whim and idea you might have rolling through your mind.
I get the sense, like, I'm curious how you feel about this, but like I get the sense, or I feel like most really successful entrepreneurs that I've met, like it is their gut and their instinct and their intuition that drives them. Like I am definitely a gut person. I'm definitely like, I don't care if y'all are telling me this is not going to sell. I am telling you it's going to sell, and like we're doing it. I'm curious, like if that's your experience too, but I feel like without that discernment and that mixed with the drive, I think it would be really hard to figure out who you are. You're going to go all the ways.
Yeah. And I agree completely. And there's no one right answer, because there is also plenty of space to hire people better than you.
Amen. Yes.
And let them own it.
Yes.
And so if you run around, swinging your instincts at everybody, you're going to shut a lot of very capable people down. And so I feel like our job as leaders, as founders especially, is to exercise that discernment over ourselves, so that we can really, again, be pushing on our strongest instincts and not just being blown from here to there on every thought that we might misconstrue as an instinct. And look, it's not easy. Like what I'm describing is, and it's not a perfect science, but that's the job. And that's the reason it can have outsized outcomes.
Yeah. Do you feel that, like, for me, it's like deep within? It's not like a thought. It's like that gut feeling. It's like I can't ignore it. And to your point, like I don't chase everything. It's not like just a fleeting thought, or I think we should. I think it's a deep down gut sense of direction or strategy or something we need to chase down. Krista's really good at that, like all the little details. I don't know. My sense is like it's within you, and those are the things that like you just can't like let go of and instinctually know that it leads you forward.
I agree. And with things of consequence, you have to try to be very discerning. But I found, and this is going to sound really dumb, I don't know if I've ever shared this, but it's even affected the way that I shop. As an example, as just one example. Like gone are the days that, maybe we're at an outlet mall or who knows what. And it's like, man, but this is like such a good deal. And you get, 3 for 1 or whatever it is. It's like, I'm not even interested. And I don't mean that in a snobby way. What I mean is I can look at something and unless like, oh, I love that. If it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's like, that could look good. No, I'm not going to waste my money. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to, and it applies to like any little decisions I make now. if I don't know, then I just move on, because I don't need more stuff in my life. You know, and harshly, even, you know, as we were sitting here, I got another junk call in my, and everyone's got a good deal, some offer on advertising. And it's like, unless I feel strongly about something, I'm just not going to do it, not going to spend my time on it. And that even day to day on inconsequential stuff is a useful skill building on intuition, kind of.
Do you think some of it too is the noise and how it's ramped up over time? You know, I remember when email was new and no one had your email. And then, of course, people got your email and then it started getting filled up. And then there was spam. And then people started getting your text numbers and they would call you. And then there's the robocalls, and it just keeps layering on. And recently I sat for a moment as I saw this, you know, we've got all the software, all the stuff you're supposed to have to filter out everything, the amazing IT people. But I'm looking at my inbox and there's still this stuff and these emails crafted as if these people know you, right? And there's some, I've been wanting to talk to you about this thing, Christa, and this is why you need to speak to me, as if I've met them or know them. There's these phishing scams and our IT team is always testing us on it. Do you think some of that is just because there's so much noise now that it's made it more top of mind to be like, unless I know you or I know exactly what this is, no interest. I'm done.
For sure. But let's extrapolate that away from even just like junk email and phone calls back to everything. You know, the stuff we buy, the stuff we can go eat, the choices we have, the people who want a piece of our time. This is a noisy, fast world. And unless we learn to discern and exercise that discernment by, frankly, just saying no and ignoring things that might otherwise take a piece of it, I don't think there's enough time and energy to achieve, you know, and I'm not saying we have to be cold-hearted people that are totally unapproachable. I believe that this discernment and this ability to follow our gut and intuition is one of the fundamental skills of any entrepreneur, founder. And by the way, I think going beyond that, just people who want to be successful. So I want to dig in real quick on, I have to ask, because, you know, you asked me early on, like, do you have kids? And I had this thought, like, I'll just come out and say it. Is Utah any kind of hotbed for the elf on the shelf just by the sheer number of like kids birthed in this state? Or do you see like geographical hotbeds of the elf, or is it, you know, is it equally spread amongst all states and regions and countries or something?
Oh, that's funny. Actually, we're throughout, obviously, the entire country, but our biggest wealth of fans is on the East Coast. And I don't know if it's because we started there in the state of Georgia and the Southeast first, and then built up the Eastern Seaboard and then continued west. But that's a really funny and very interesting question.
Well, you know, I have to ask because I just
feel
like
one, though. It's a good
where
one.
I live, it seems like everybody is a slave to their elf. And you know, there's nothing worse than when he doesn't move at night, relocate. You know, the stories that need to be spun up are myriad and terrifying, facing into children.
We get lots of phone calls, emergency calls, emails, all sorts of messages on social about that. And obviously, the elf takes on the personality of the family that adopts it. And so if your family is uber creative, your elf's going to be super creative. And if your family is a little more laid back, like mine, I mean, I would say Santa probably has chats with my elf about how lazy he is. So that's always helpful. And then we also have explained to kids on many occasions when they call and they're very, very concerned that their elf did not move. Actually, they did. It's just they have a favorite spot where they get the best vantage point. It's like you have a spot on your couch that you love, and if somebody's sitting in it, you kind of get disturbed that they're sitting in your spot. It's the same with the elf. They just have a favorite spot.
See, these are insights.
That's right. That's its own podcast, right? Insights from the elf. Yeah.
No, I love it. These are all the things, you wanted to know, but were afraid to ask.
That's right.
Okay. So I'm curious, when you launched this thing or had the idea, what was it? Obviously you guys had a great upbringing with this cool tradition or something like it. What was that moment where you knew you had to take it to others and try to make something of it more broadly?
Yeah. I mean, I think what's important for everyone to know is that this was not born out of any desire to like start a business at all. It really was a result of, and I don't tell a lot of this story because I feel like it's my mom's story to tell, but she has shared that, she was very depressed. She was very sad. She had been an active stay-at-home mom and all of us had gone. My dad's business was struggling. It was a variety of things. And at the time I was a brand new mom. I had just had my son. I had taken a year off from being a school teacher, which is what I did before. And at the time they would let you take a year and they'd save your job for you. And so that's what I did. My husband's also a school teacher, special ed coach. And so I would have been working for childcare, which didn't make a lot of sense. And we were absolutely broke. So I worked for my dad twice a week in a little small engineering and fabrication firm. And because it was so far away from where I lived, it was about 2 hours one way, and I had an infant that got to come with me. I would stay the night at my parents' house. And I looked up one day and I see our elf sitting on a shelf, the elf we grew up with. And truly solely out of a desire to do something with my mom that would get her mind off her current circumstance. I said to her, "Hey, Mom, we should write a story about our elf." And that really was the impetus. It was really a mother-daughter project, and something for us to do together. And that's really what we did over the next 6 to 8 months as I would go to my mom's house. It was such fun memories for us growing up, the magic of the elf. And so it really came from this whole idea of like, Mom, let's just do this. And so we did that for roughly 6 to 8 months. And then it's like, okay, now what? We've got this story. What do we do with it? So we buy a book and we write a proposal and we do the things it tells us to do. And we get a phone call from an agent. And at the time I'd done enough research to know that in itself was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so we think, wow, now there's a path. Like we've written this story and the publishers are going to publish it. And, we got an agent. And
by the way, if I can interrupt, was it at that moment, do you feel like it was more about the book than it was about the elf, the physical elf?
I think the design or the desire was that it would always be together, right? It would be a story about this elf and it would always come with an elf. But we didn't even really know what that would be, right? It was just like it was one foot in front of another. And that's why when we talked about the theme of the show, basically being like, you don't know what you don't know. This was absolutely in our sweet spot. We had no idea what we were doing, even starting with crafting the story. And so we craft the story, then it's like, we can't get any publisher. Nobody wants it. They don't know what to do with it. We're not famous. It's destined for the damaged goods bin is what we're told. And so then it's like, okay, someone mentions self-publishing. We're like, what is that? And so, but then even along that way, it's like, okay, well, I guess we should find somebody to draw the pictures that would go with this if it ever becomes a book, and it just became like a process of really little projects on top of one another, where it was like, okay, no one wants to publish it. Well, I guess we'll get an illustrator. We'll start to learn how to do this ourselves. Oh, we need it to come with a book and the elf. I guess we'll design this little packaging by ourselves.
Yeah.
We have no money. How are we going to pay for this? Well, we'll use our personal credit. And Krista sold her house and put her proceeds in, and like we were all in just to share this tradition. But we all got super excited about sharing this family tradition that had meant so much to us and was so magical. Like we knew kids would love it.
Yeah.
But we really had no idea, especially mom and I, before Krista joined the business, had any idea about business at all. And it was really just continued to be a project that I did with my mom to help her. Is really sort of the backstory of that.
Yeah. I love that. And of course it sounds so familiar,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it swap the elf in the story for a giant beanbag.
Yeah.
And it's the same process. And I don't mean that with any kind of disrespect. I mean it because anyone listening needs to understand, because I get asked all the time, yeah, but how did you know then, to open a store, whatever. I didn't know anything. And just like you, I had no intention of it even being a business. I kind of did it because my neighbor kept twisting my arm, had seen the one that I had made on a whim go up and down the street. And he's like, make me one. So then if I'm going to make one, I need to start a business. Well, how do you do that? And what's amazing is same process, question after question, roadblock after roadblock, until you wake up one day and you, Chanda and Christa, are often lead all kinds of panels. You're asked to speak, you're paid to speak, talk about your journey, talk about your wisdom. And now you are an expert. You are the expert. And that's knowing today a little bit more than you knew then, or a lot more. And it will come. And so the first Shawnism in my book, which you may have seen, is just do something. Because by you writing the story and making the phone call or putting it out, whatever, it starts a cascade of dominoes. And I feel like so many people, because exactly what you said, because they don't know anything about fill in the blank, they stop.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is actually take action. And then the second Shawnism, just do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And before you know it, you get to be the CEO of a public company on NASDAQ for almost a decade now and, grow toward $1 billion or whatever. And in your case, you've generated tens of millions of sales, practically on your own. You get to own that all. You get to benefit from it all. And more importantly, you put something in the world now that will outlast you.
Yeah.
Legacy.
Yeah. We both feel like we're working for legacy. I mean, it's really special what we do, because when people find out, they instantly start sharing their story. It's like we're a member of their family. And so, they pull out their phone and they start sharing all their stories, their elf's name, their experience, and to get to be a part of people's experience, especially at Christmas time, where we are a piece of their family memories, their unique Christmas moments. And I don't think any of us that work at the North Pole take that for granted. We understand how special and unique that privilege is. Krista has always said people buy from people they like. But I feel like too, it's the authenticness of the people who work in our company, that the overflow is the product that people buy into.
I agree. I think people can people can smell authenticity.
Yeah.
Anyone can put on a smile and when the cameras are on, and then, and Krista knows this more than anyone. I had my moment, by the way, on QVC. We've lived 100 lives at Lovesac.
Help you sell it? Did she help you sell it? She should have.
It was Shawn and Shauna.
Yes. Shauna was a little bit after me.
On the set.
Because I'm old.
No, but you probably worked with hosts that were one way on the camera and another way as soon as they were off. I don't know, but the world can be like that, and we have the choice. And I think you said something about authenticity that I think is so important. I won't get political, but it's such an easy example. Take Donald Trump. Okay. And I know people hate that name or love that name, whatever. But here is a person who, like it or hate it, just, obviously speaks his mind. And whether you agree or not, there are a lot of people that do. And even though a lot of, I think what he says and does can be really crass or whatever. And you wouldn't imagine it from like a politician. And my point just being, authenticity cuts through. And you have to be bold enough to just be authentic to who you are. And just like the way that your book looks and smells and feels differently, from its illustrations to the felt that your cute little elf is made from, that is still kind of the same as the one I first bought. And it could have improved, or I don't know, used some space age material or gotten other, and you're doing other things. Like I'm holding this cute guy, this Tony, right, who can do other things. But I think if you can both maintain authenticity and evolve your business and your life, it's that authenticity that will just somehow leak out of the seams. In my case, of the fabric and the furniture, to where people, they just like it. And they don't know why they like it necessarily. But if they just like it, there's a good chance they'll give you their money for it. And more importantly, that thing, whether it's a love sack in their living room or the sectional they live their life on and have Christmas morning on, like, I don't take that for granted. I'm there too.
That's so cool.
And no one thinks about their couch. Who's thinking about their couch? No one thinks about it. But make no mistake, I do. And I love being there, with your elf up there on the mantle and me down here in the center of their living room. Very different business models, but we've all learned the same thing. I heard you talk about your purpose. Here you are, a professional, capable expert on business and media, storytelling, toys, all of it. And that's what's on the other end of not knowing what you don't know, but being willing to take the first and second and third steps and onward.
Yeah.
Yeah. I often tell people, because then they'll say, well, what's the first step? And I know you get those same questions. And I always say, write it down. Right? I did some research, and people have over 6,000 ideas a day, right? Over 6,000 a day. And some of them are very mundane, and some of them are very meaningful. And there's some research that even says you can have up to 30,000 different ideas a day. But if you think about all of the ideas that you have in the course of just 1 year, and you find a way for one of those to stick out, and it just keeps gnawing at you, how do you start? Write it down on a piece of paper. Make it real. Take the act of it just rolling around in your brain and put it on paper, so that now you're forced to start really thinking about it. What differentiates this idea from any other similar thing that's out there like it, right? What is it that makes it special? There was this one example that has always stuck with me, and it comes out of my own experience in going to the dentist. So I don't know about you, Shawn. I went to the dentist yesterday, but I don't typically love going to the dentist. I don't know. Do you? Are you one of those that's like,
I don't know anyone who does.
No, exactly. So I had gotten a recommendation for this dental practice, and I end up going, and it's all the things, right? The dread, you hear the drills in the background. You're like, this is going to be terrible. And I get in there and I sit down in the chair, and the very first person to greet me has like this warm blanket they put on top of me. And I'm like, ooh, this is nice. This is different. And the very next person that comes in says, would you like a scalp massage or a hand massage? Now, this is the dentist. But you took something that is pretty typical. Most people know they have to go and they have to get dental work done. And they elevated it. They branded it into something that made it completely different. So if I'm writing down, I want to be the best dentist in town on that piece of paper, I want my practice to stand out. How? Why? What's missing? Because going to the dentist scares people. Giving people a massage and a somewhat spa-like experience, now that's what makes you different.
Scare them.
No, now you want to go to the dentist.
Now, Krista, dentists everywhere are going to start offering warm blankets and massage.
I hope they do. That will make far more people excited to go to the dentist.
That's true.
I'm a big fan of that for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. And again, you can innovate on Christmas, you can innovate on the dentist. And, for anyone listening, there is just ample opportunity to innovate all around you, whether you want to be a founder of something or even, by the way, in whatever job you hold. And I think just maintaining the faith that that is true by the examples that you offer, both by example and by your own example with the elf and the one you just shared, that faith, use it as a motivator, speaking to anyone listening to try stuff, to go for it, to do stuff in your own job or out in the world.
Yeah, and it's not always going to be successful. You can't be afraid to fail. What is it? What is the saying that the only shot you miss is the one you don't take? It's that kind of thing.
What's an example of something you have tried, even under the elf umbrella, that didn't stick necessarily?
I can think of a few things that we have done and tried that have not been like hugely successful. And for a variety of reasons. At one point, it was especially early on when we didn't know what we wanted to do or be, right? And so as a company, really figuring out what you're passionate about and getting that vision and mission just right, I think is really important, because for a long time we were just elf on the shelf. It was just elf on the shelf. Then we started to get a fan base 5 or 6 years in, when we're not, pedaling literally out of our cars and at every little show, everything we go to. And then they're wanting more. What else you got? Right. And we're like, well, I don't know. What else do we have? And so before we did that, we really weren't sure. Were we a publishing company? Were we a season or a holiday company? Like what did we do? Were we only elf on the shelf? And I'm not even sure we had any elf accessories at the time. I think maybe we had an activity book was the only other thing we had. And someone else came to us with their idea, and we thought it was really cute and really clever. But it was about this like little creature that had a light in its tummy, and it would basically like scare the monsters under their bed away, called A Light in the Night. And we took that on. Mom and I helped with the story. We helped her rewrite her story, and we developed this little plush that she had originally developed and really helped her take it to market, and using the lessons we had learned and like under our banner. And you quickly learned that all the buyers wanted to talk to us about was elf on the shelf. And we just could not get any traction, even though it was super cute product and it was great. And I think that was part of just the iteration and us figuring out who we are, what we do well, what our consumers and fans want from us.
Yeah. And did that help you shape other things that have worked in the way that you've approached?
Absolutely. 100%. So it's at that point that you realize like, okay, maybe we are Santa's storytellers. Maybe we are this world of the North Pole. And we also went through this period of time, we had a brand to build, and Christa was always, be the brand, be bigger than people think you are, all of this thing. Because literally for years, it's me, my mom, and Christa, and a computer, and some friends that would show up to help, do all the things. So, I mean, Chris, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, but that's kind of my general take on it.
No, it certainly did help us refine who we were and what we wanted to do. Also, it taught us that we were splitting our resources, right? It was an adorable idea. It was super cute, but we only had so many dollars, and where were they going to be best spent? Building the Elf on the Shelf brand and other brands that would come after it, and hiring for where we were going and not for where we are, or continuing to pour into something that probably wasn't the best fit for us. And it shaped our vision, our mission, our values, and our purpose. And to this day, those are things that are our guardrails for everything that we do within the company.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it was then that we started leaning into like elf clothing. My son had actually, he drew, it hangs in my office, but he drew like a little elf jersey that he wanted us to make. And that was literally like the first piece of elf clothing, that and a skirt. And then we did, I think reindeer, our elf pets reindeer was our first sort of leaning into storytelling that was really outside of elf. And
Cool.
that's when you start realizing like, hey, there's more here. There's a world of storytelling that's available to us.
Yeah.
And now it was all those building blocks though that got us there. So now we knew how to publish a book. We knew how to make a book. We knew how to market a book. We knew how to distribute a book. We knew how to get product made. Even though our product assortment was small, I remember going to shows and we would be at these booths and they would have their 1,000 SKUs,
Yeah.
would literally marvel. Like, this is what you have? Like, this is it? We'd be like, yeah. And there were like 5 or 6 SKUs in our whole booth.
Yeah.
But that's how you build a brand.
Yeah. And that list of skills and abilities that you just threw out there. So you can know what you didn't know.
Yes.
But you can't know what you don't know. And that's why you just have to hurl yourself in and learn along the way. I really believe in that. And it's so cool to hear you, Christa, mention that gave rise to the vision, mission, and guardrails for this brand that you're building. And you can't be at the dawn of the rise of that sort of information until you've put in that 5 or 6 years, as you said, or 10 or 15. And in my case, I think the love sack that people see today in our vision, mission, purpose, all this stuff, designed for life, products built to last a lifetime, designed to evolve. It's like year 20. It's like maybe year 18, 19, 20 that we evolved into that. And of course, we had different stated purposes and visions and things along the way. But the one that I think is going to carry us for the next 25 years, I was almost 20 years in.
Yeah.
And so
that's
for people listening, don't.
We were too. So we redesigned our vision and mission. What was that, Christa? 2016?
It started in 2014. Before that, our complete vision was our elf on every shelf, right? And then as we evolved and we realized we could be so much more and we could be the Santaverse, right? We were introducing content. We were talking about entertainment. We were looking at experiences. We're talking to studios and producers. And this world that we had created was really starting to grow and in some cases explode. And we needed a new vision that was going to match where the company was going. And we needed a statement around our mission that explained how we were going to do it.
Yeah.
And, you should take a look at those things over time. I think it's a great point that you're making, Shawn. Too many people think you can just set it and forget it, the old Ron Popeil method.
No
but that's just not possible. You have to evolve.
Yep. You have to evolve, and it's okay to evolve. It's tricky because we're talking about both sides of our mouth. There is value in being really dug in and protective of a great mission, purpose, vision, values, idea, instinct, all these things. And there's value in evolving them. And I think back to, this is why you're paid the big bucks, your ability to parse that, to use good judgment, to most often stay on course and keep swimming, but occasionally to lift your head up and get your bearings and reset. And if you're constantly resetting, you're going to swim in circles. You're going to get nowhere, or you're not going to be swimming at all. You're going to be treading water. But that ability is, I think, the fundamental determinant for whether someone can actually make it somewhere.
I think
this is brilliant.
Has stayed the same for us though is our values. And I think when you get those right, those don't change. And that's like your guiding light. And also, I would say our vision and mission has definitely grown.
Yeah.
But I think our purpose at its core has all stayed the same.
Yeah.
So I think
but isn't it
what
cool?
you're doing. I'm sorry.
Isn't it cool that you're trafficking in these very critical and important business principles that, again, when you were just beginning, you might not have known about, you might not have thought about. Now you're the experts, and that's really the point of the whole topic, right? Is while you can't know what you don't know, you can't let that paralyze you, because if you don't try, you'll never find out. And you ladies have found out and brought something beautiful to the world that will outlive you. And I'm super proud of it. I'm super proud to be associated with it. I've been a customer, a user for a very long time. All 4 of my children have grown up on it to the point where they've now, I won't say they'll ever outgrow it. I'm sure they will still expect our elf to show up, but they definitely have now, seen behind the curtain. So what are you going to do?
No. Yeah. You're never too old to believe. My mom was always like, if you don't believe, you don't receive. So I think that's the magic of that time of year, right? It's remembering all the things that we cherish and love and spend time together doing important things. And I think the Elf on the Shelf is a huge part of that. As are the other brands now, as the companies.
Yeah. So what do you have coming? What are you doing now? Where is it going? What do you have coming?
So much. So this is our 20th anniversary.
Oh.
So we have a whole 20th anniversary collection of products that are here for this year in celebration. Probably my big next step as a storyteller has been introducing a novel, which is the backstory of Santa Claus. And so leaning into our vision of telling the stories of Santa's North Pole, there's all of these characters of the current North Pole and the way people know the world of the North Pole, but also there is 2,000 years of history. And how does he become Santa Claus, and how does he meet the elves, and all of those things. And so launched our origin story called The Rise of Nicholas the Noble, with a 9x9 picture book that is in current day North Pole for kids. And they have a lot of some similar characters in the book. So just an amazing year for celebration, a lot of new products for people to be excited about. New snowman with his own little book and story that teaches kids to celebrate even the little things.
Cool.
So I think
Razzle the celebration snowman.
I'm excited.
But I also want to mention too the collaborations. Shanda and I often get these amazing moments that come across our desks where you're like, oh my gosh, Light Bright wants to do a partnership with us. This is awesome. Elves tend to leave signs for their kids, or kids want to write notes. So that's a fun one. And a couple other partnerships, like Outright Games has our very first ever true video game. So it's PlayStation and all the different formats.
Rad.
It's just been so much fun to grow the Santaverse. Shanda, we should say rad more. We don't use that enough.
Let's bring it back, y'all. It started.
No, Shawn already did. He's living in the rad lifestyle, man. I love it.
Well, Jingles, the name of our elf, is a fixture in our home. And I'm so proud and congratulate you both on 20 years with Elf on the Shelf and all of the rad things yet to come. It's amazing. Please, for everyone listening, be sure to check out everything that Chanda and Christa are up to at lumistella.com, LUMISTELLA.com, at elfontheshelf.com, of course. And be sure to pre-order the brand new book, The Rise of Nicholas the Noble.
Yay.
2,000-year history. Yeah, it's available for pre-order, and you can get it everywhere.
Actually, it's available now. You can get it. They will ship it right to your door. It's
going. All right. The Rise of Nicholas the Noble. I will have ordered it before I get off this connection. Even on the Elf on the Shelf website, you can find it. So thank you to the enigmatic inventors of the Elf on the Shelf, the leaders of the Luma Stella Company, the supremely successful siblings themselves, Christa Pitts and Shanda Bell.
Thank you, Shawn.
Sweet. We are so appreciative of you having us on. Just really an honor and so much fun to meet you. I will definitely let you know if we're out your way. And you need to let us know if you're in Atlanta. The southern branch of the North Pole awaits.
Well, we might have to collab. The Elf on the Sack, might
Let's do it.
Yeah, people would love it. I guarantee it. They would love it.
Well,
Shawn, Santa can work on little tiny love sacks.
I know.
We'll be in touch. We'll be in touch. And for all those listening, remember, you can't know what you don't know. So just get going. Just take the leap, because the journey itself will always teach you what you need to do. And you will wind up as successful as these two. It just may save you a chunk off your own 25-year journey. Thank you.
Yes.
Once a year to take my friends away. It should not be the budget for your bike across America.
TikTok has become an aggregator for some of the dumbest human actions.
When I won that million, I was $2 million in debt, barely hanging on.